Oh, we've got a bunch of Seattleites.
Hey,
Got someone logging in from New York. Beautiful. Dubai,
I see
Hong
Texas in the chat.
Kong, Texas, hey, Texas.
Texas fans from our end here, he sounds like.
Yeah, we've got a few people with ties to Texas. Um, yeah, I went to undergrad in New York, so that's a I have a very soft spot for New York. Miss it a lot. We've got Canada in the house, LA in the house, lots of Bay Area too.
Very cool.
Cool.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you all for coming today. We're really excited to talk with you and to answer any questions you might have about the MHCID program, the admissions process, your applications, whatever's on your mind with that. To get us started today, as I wrote in the RSVP reminder, we're not going to run through the entire description of the program and curriculum like we've done in other info sessions. We figured we've got that recording available. You could take a look at it and you're welcome to. But we wanted to mostly focus on what our students have been up to, let them talk about what their first quarter has been like here, and then go into question and answers to give you plenty of time to ask any questions that are on your mind. Joining us today, before we get to the student panel, I just want to say hello to our director of the program, Ana Pinto da Silva. Hi, Ana. And also our associate director, Scott Ichikawa. The two of them are guiding our admissions process here. And they'll be here for questions and answers along the way, anything that we do. The one reminder I'm going to give you from programmatic side of things is that January 15th is coming. That's a hard deadline for your application. So just have in mind, January 15th. I think we've got a countdown clock on our website that says 41 days and some hours at this point. So we're getting close to the 1 month mark for applications to be in. That's what you're working towards, is that Jan 15th deadline. Overall, though, I mostly wanted to turn this over to Samantha Ting, our admissions ambassador, current student from the cohort 11. And Samantha, Sam, I'll let you introduce the other students who are here and talk with them a little bit. Eager to turn it over to you.
All right, thanks so much, Matt. Hey everyone, thanks so much for logging on bright and early. Well, it's bright and early for us. Actually, kind of gloomy and early just because it's raining a lot in Seattle this week. But that's something to look forward to once you guys are here. Yeah, lovely to see you. My name's Samantha. I'm currently a part of cohort 11, and the admissions ambassador for this cohort. So I'll drop my email in the chat later if you guys want to reach out and schedule some one-on-ones to talk more in depth as we get closer to the deadline. With me here today are 5 of my classmates from the current cohort, and we'll love to share a little bit about our experiences so far. If anything crops up for you, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and we'll get to them. Okay, I'll kick us off, and then I'll sort of pass the baton around and get everyone to introduce themselves. I'm originally from Singapore, and I come from a background in government work, so policy research and policy communications. Decided to come to the MHCID program because I got interested in design through one of my work projects. And yeah, that is sort of my background. I did psychology undergrad, and I feel that a lot of the technique and a lot of the theories from that is coming in handy from a user research perspective and helping me out with the course. All right, okay, I'm gonna maybe call on one of my classmates and then you guys can pass the baton to someone else. How about that? All right, cool. Kaya's right next to me on the screen, so I'm gonna toss it to Kaya.
Thank you, Sam. Hi, everybody. I'm Kaya, and I'm a part of cohort 11. I actually just graduated this past May of 2023 with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I went to school in North Carolina, so it's a really big switch from coming to Seattle. But I originally wanted to be a part of this program because I wanted to learn more about the user experience and also to learn more about accessibility and inclusion, especially when designing. So I had a lot of background with internships in product design and mechanical engineering. So I really wanted to utilize my technical skills, but also incorporate some of the like soft skills, like how will people use the product that I design? Like, is it something that people will enjoy and things like that? So that's the main reason why I decided to come. And I will pass the baton to Michael.
Morning, everyone. Well, for those who it is morning for, my name is Michael. I'm part of cohort 11. I'm coming here originally from Oklahoma. However, I'm a first generation Nigerian American. So kind of been around a little bit. And I'm actually transitioning, I transitioned into this kind of whole field of product design from medicine. So when I transitioned from medicine, I started working with a nonprofit as a designer. And I actually saw MHCID as a chance to really come and get not only like a foundational learning of, you know, how to be a designer, but also a chance to really kind of explore this industry, opportunities in it, and meet like-minded individuals, a chance to really push myself and kind of discover what else is out there. So I'm just really looking forward to this panel, and I will pass the baton to Metri.
Hi everyone, I'm Maitri and I'm from India. I have graduated from NID, which is National Institute of Design, Ahmedabad, back in India. And I have a Bachelor of Design degree specializing in textile design. So it was a bit different from this as well. But then I worked for about 3 years in the user experience design field, especially in the finance industry. The reason I came here was because even though I had that initial UX experience, I wanted to get that in-depth knowledge, which I think a program like MHCID can give you really well. And also I wanted to see what the future holds for HCI. So I think that's perfect because one of our courses, we're working on that, which is like post-UX. So just thinking beyond screens, using all of your senses like audio, virtual reality, things like that. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying my time here, and it's everything that I hope for. Yeah. I will pass it to Peter.
Hey y'all, I'm Peter. I'm from Shanghai. I have a background in architecture. I went to undergrad in Texas, and I see that some of y'all are from Texas in the chat. And there are actually a number of other architects in our current cohort, so there's kind of a recurring trend here. I got interested in HCI because, well, one, I thought that architecture wasn't for me. I worked 1 year in the industry and didn't like it and was trying to pivot. And at the time, there were a couple of my friends in the field of HCI or UX. And I looked into it, and I did 2 design-a-thons and researched on grad school options, and it just kind of grew on me, and I thought this is probably a new kind of opening for me. Yeah.
All right, last but not least, Charlotte, let's go.
Okay, cool. Hi, everybody. I'm Charlotte. I'm from cohort 11. And I did my undergrad back in New Jersey, and I was majoring informatics. So probably the only one here wasn't really switch path. I've been always on this field since I was undergrad. And then before I come to this program, I was working 3 years as a product designer. And then the reason why I come to this program is because I want to learn something different than what I'm doing in my work, which is like purely screen-based. So I want to learn something different. Yeah.
Hey, thanks everyone for the intro. I was just talking to Matt earlier that the panel today is actually from 3 project groups. So Kaya and I worked on the same project, Charlotte and Peter were on the same project, Michael and Maitri were on the same project as well. And we just wrapped up our final presentations for our projects yesterday. So yeah, we've been graded. Scott's here observing us as we talk about our project in retrospect. So this is going to be exciting. So yeah, the next question that I had lined up for you guys is, yeah, talk a little bit about the projects that you did this quarter and sort of what your biggest takeaway from them was. So for the attendees context, we had 2 core classes this quarter. One of them was Ideation Studio. And then the other one was about user research. So maybe I can get my classmates to talk about, either or project, and then sort of what your biggest takeaway from that was. I think I'll start with Charlotte, and then we'll sort of like go off from there.
Yeah, cool. So as Sam said, me and Peter was in the same ideation project, and then Sam and I is in the same UX research project. So for the ideation this quarter, we're doing like museum exhibitions about like raising people's awareness about like birds in Seattle. And for the UX research, we're doing studying like joy in workplace. So for the ideation class, I would say it's like to learn how to work with people with different styles than you. Because like everybody come with like different background, everybody have like different skills. I think work with people who are different than you is kind of important. Also because like some people is like new to this field, so you kind of have to like coordinate with like different classmates and then their different skills. And for the UX research class, I think that one is like most interesting to me. I feel like I've have a little bit like not research background, but like done some like UX research, usability testing. I feel like I can still learn something new from this, even though I have a little bit background about it. I feel like that's the biggest takeaway for me. And yeah, even though you have some knowledge beforehand, it's always something new for you to learn. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Peter, you can go next and talk a little bit about what you guys did on the.
You're right. Plus one, what Charlotte said on the core ideation class, which is the main studio class. We worked on the exhibit on birds. And I think our group kind of went through one of the more kind of bumpier experience compared to some of the other groups. And I think what I learned is that coordination is definitely an important part of the equation in terms of team success. And I think coordination facilitation is definitely a learned skill, which is something that I know beforehand, but to put into practice is more difficult than I thought. So that's one takeaway from ideation. And for user research, my group we did research on how platforms like Steam can provide better recommendation and searching functions for novice gamers, so like new gamers. And I think my biggest takeaway is to learn how to formulate and structure research in a short period of time within the quarter. Yeah.
Maybe Maitri, you want to go next? Maitri and Michael, you guys can talk about please talk about your cool tattoo idea.
Yeah, we were working on, for Ideation Studio, we're working on what design in general looks like maybe 50 years down the line, 100 years down the line, post-humanistic landscape. And our topic is tattoos. So how do we still maintain that essence of tattooing while also looking at what else it can do? And what our product is basically is that it's a color changing tattoo based on your happiness hormone levels in your body. So it just reminds you, it's a daily reminder for you to find more joyous moments in life and go out and try new experiences that make you happy. And I think my biggest takeaway from this probably would be the fact that so initially we had to like come up with 30 ideas each, and then that into 4 people in your team. So that was a lot of ideas, and just being able to narrow down on one idea and just being very focused and specific and going into details and researching about it is something that I think a lot of designers struggle with. So coming up with different methodologies like different thinking hats or different design principles that you can choose those ideas based on was, I think, very important. And as for user research, we're working on this project where we, so our topic was art and design. And then based on our research and interviews, we came up with this idea for an app where it connects artists to galleries if they want to show their work there. So that was pretty cool as well. And yeah, I'll pass it on to Michael.
Yeah, no, definitely got a +1, something that Charlotte had said, as well as what Metri had said, in that Working in the tattoo tech, on the tattoo idea, it was very interesting having 4 very diverse people kind of coming together, all be feeling very passionate about this idea, but especially getting out of our comfort zone and out of our normal perspective and trying to think in a post-humanism landscape in 100 years in the future. You kind of get very attached to different ideas. So everybody's coming up with these awesome ideas. And unlike a lot of times working in industry where you're working with, in web design, which is kind of what I'm more familiar and comfortable with, is like, okay, the ideas are more grounded and they make more sense. And it's like, okay, A or B makes sense. But when you're thinking speculative in a speculative fashion, it's kind of hard to say why this idea versus that idea. And I think it was very much so something that for our team, it took us a while to kind of realize that it was less so about the actual idea and more so about the process for us of like, what does that idea actually mean? What does that idea mean to bring to industry, and what is the world that surrounds that idea? And I think for myself, I definitely took away one, that the ideas don't have to be perfect. Sometimes it's actually allowing yourself to go forward and talk about an idea you're not comfortable with that allows you to kind of get new understandings, as well as the fact that there's not really always a right answer. So you should not always figure out, you shouldn't wait to be right or feel super comfortable with your idea. Sometimes it's jumping on your idea, and the further you try to develop it, it'll become sometimes more obvious whether it works or doesn't. I was actually lucky enough to work with Kaya on my user research team, and we actually were working in the gaming space as well, just like Peter's team. We were working actually in accessibility, and I particularly am really into game development and game design, and so I really pitched to my team, what if we looking into accessibility features in games and gaming. And it kind of took on a life of its own in terms of we actually looked into how do non-disabled gamers use accessibility features. And it really kind of was interesting. And I really loved being able to kind of work with people who have different levels of exposure, both to research as well as to the space we were working in, because the different perspectives had different cautions. And I feel like at every step, we had somebody who had oh no, we need to look at it from this perspective, whether it was from an expert perspective or from somebody who was coming into the space, that doesn't make sense. And so it really kind of balanced to me. And my biggest takeaway was having that mix of personalities and experiences on a team is so essential, because I love where our project ended up, but it wouldn't have become this without everybody being an essential part of our team. I guess I'll flip that to Kaya.
Yeah, I was going to toss that over to Kaya.
That was great. So as Michael was saying about the speculative design for Ideation Studio, they really wanted us to push a post-humanism theme. So that's basically almost all the designs here are all centered around humans. What do humans need? What will bring them joy? But our team really pushed the post-humanism thing and was okay, what if we design for something an inanimate object? So we decided to design center our project around the Drumheller Fountain, which is this very iconic landmark on campus. So we wanted to know what was the fountain's needs? How can we design for the fountain? Do we want to give it a personality? So that was very fun to dive deep into and create an actual prototype for. And then for user research, like Michael was saying about, we were focused on gaming. I think I learned a lot from this class in particular because I had no idea. I didn't have any research background, so it was very interesting to learn the different types of research methods because I didn't even know that was a thing. And then it was very fun, interviewing people. It took a lot of work, but going out and interviewing people was actually very fun, talking to people and just asking them, well, why do you think that? And just I felt like a therapist, just asking people to dig deeper and things like that. So that was very fun. But yeah, overall for both classes, I definitely learned a lot of organization skills and time management, and then how to work with different types of people.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm hearing a couple of common themes come up. So we're talking about how working with diverse group mates can both be like a really like a learning experience of coordination, but also kind of bring in all of these like really diverse perspectives coming in. That's really cool. And then I wanted to echo really quickly what Michael said about sort of getting used to presenting out what I would have felt previously are like half-baked ideas. I think coming into this, my biggest growth over the quarter from both from especially from ideation, but I think in general is learning to let go of perfection. I think coming in from, if any of you are coming in from work environments that demanded sort of a very regimented deliverables, and like you had to make sure everything was like beautiful and perfect before you showed it to anyone for feedback, this program is going to be deeply uncomfortable, but also great for growth. Yeah, so I think letting go of this idea that I only can't like anything that I put out that is not perfect is not worth showing people, having to let go of that and getting feedback along the way, and then refining your idea, and then finding the joy and fun in creating these ideas together with your teammates was really fun. Like for Kaya and our project around the fountain, I think we struggled in the beginning with like, this is so crazy. Do we do this? Because it just sounds nuts. Do we dial back and make it safe? Do we talk about the people using the fountain, or should we just go ahead and like make the fountain the central focus? But in the end, really leaning into things that you can only do in grad school, right? This is a project that honestly, it's really hard to be able to do that anywhere else. Has been really rewarding. I see a question in the Q&A that I'm just going to pose right now because it's actually quite relevant. So Stella asked if we got to choose the topics for ideation and research, or if they're assigned. So maybe just to quickly answer that, yes, we got to sort of come to the topics with by discussing with our groups. We had some activities to kind of find what everyone's focus areas was. The groups are assigned, but the topics is something that you negotiate with your group mates. Yep. And in terms of whether you want to have topics prepared as you're applying, I don't think you have to. It's really just something you figure out along the way. Yeah.
I just want to add to that. So definitely you don't need to prepare topics at all. The reason for that is, so actually how we came up with the tattoo idea was, for example, in my user research, we had the topic of art and design. And then we were really looking into how art and design can be personalized. So one of the ideas like that we just thought of was, oh, but how, like tattoos can be a cool idea to personalize because they're so unique to each person. And that like got bounced off to ideation studio, where like, oh, we were all really excited about tattoos being a research topic for us. So definitely don't come up with any topics beforehand.
Oh, I do just want to clarify for the question's sake that and I don't know if we can guarantee how they will actually present it to you and you know, for your cohort, but the way they were presented to us for our cohort for ideation was an ideation. We were given an overall theme for the quarter. So for us, it was post-humanism. I know for previous quarter, they did probes. So they wanted them to go do live probes into like the Seattle environment. So it seems like ideation, they kind of give you an overall theme for the quarter, but it is up to your team to come up with whatever your space or idea is. Versus with user research, we were actually given problem spaces. So they kind of split us into 8 teams, and there were 8 subject areas on the board. And you got a random number, and based on the number was which number, you know, you got to choose in order which problem space you were in. So I think Matthew just said, like for her team got art and design. So they were able to come up with any research project they wanted to falling under that purview. But I can also say that for my team, my team of with Kaya, we were 5 very different individuals, and we couldn't, I think we had we had travel maybe, but we couldn't really mesh on it. So we talked to the professor and she let us come up with our own problem space. So they're definitely willing to work with you. It's more so about challenging you and getting you in the space to like launch in a successful direction than like having like the perfect idea to start.
Yeah, I know Charlotte and Peter, you guys also started with like a much broader problem space before landing on birds. Maybe you could speak a little to that.
Yeah, we actually started on stray cats, which is kind of niche and specific, and then we kind of broadened it into like wildlife conservation, and then eventually we ended on birds through some like weird twists and turns, but that's how it kind of like it's our journey. And for user research, we actually started with the topic of gaming, which is what I believe Michael would have liked, but I assure you that all of these topics that they give you are there to kind of like help you to catalyze, just to kickstart the conversation. They're kind of like designed to be broad enough so that you can kind of like define your own space. Yeah.
I feel like the interesting thing is like you thought you have like idea coming to this program or even like this class, but like once you get into the group with different people, and then you can like the topic keep changing, keep shifting. Also, like after you talk to the instructor, they might point it out to some like the underlying question you might not aware of. Maybe it's not like, maybe it's like too broad to like create a design problem space. So I feel like the whole process is like keep iterating, keep refining your design, keep like sharpening your problem space. Yeah.
Yeah, I think finding the right question to ask was a huge, like, was probably what we spent the most time on in the very beginning. Just because I think it also it instills in us the importance of like finding the right problem space to work with. Otherwise, like it's either too big to work on in the quarter, or like it's too narrow. And then if you have a solution in mind, it also limits what you can do for project. Yeah. I'd like to move on maybe to something a little bit lighter. The next question I have lined up for the panel is, what was your favorite memory from this quarter? It could be school related. I mean, it could be like class related. It could be something fun that, you know, you did in Seattle, something fun you did with the cohort. So yeah, what was your favorite memory from this past quarter? If nobody goes, I'm gonna arrow someone. Oh, Charlotte
I'll
unmuted. I saw.
okay. Yeah, sorry.
Wait,
Charlotte, go
Charlotte.
ahead.
Yeah. So aside of what I said, like people have like different backgrounds, that's also the amazing thing that you get to meet a lot of people, which you didn't think of you guys gonna be friends. But like once you get to know them, like you realize that everybody is so nice. It's just like you guys just have different working styles. But as a person, everybody's so like down to earth, everybody's so cool. And yeah, I genuinely like everybody in my cohort, which I think is like really hard to find people that you really like in the real life. But also like I don't know, maybe just for me, like ever since you started working, it's like rarely for you to like go out and meet somebody other than your cohort, other than your like coworkers. So I feel like it's also like great time for me to get to know new people, also like what they're doing, like their different path. And yeah, it's like definitely one of the part that like the most about this program is like the people here.
Yeah, plus one in what Charlotte said, I think definitely people in the cohort as well as connecting with the faculty members is a big highlight for me. I think for in terms of favorite memory, I definitely had a couple. One was the Thanksmas party from actually last week, hosted by the party committee. I think Sam and Kaya were part of the committee. Yeah, so y'all will have opportunities to kind of like get involved with being part of different student committees or even start your own committee. I think this year we have a karaoke committee. So that's fun. And so the Thanksmas party was really fun. We did like a white elephant gift exchange activity, and that was really exciting. And also another favorite memory of mine was from one of my project groups, we did some bonding activities like movie nights or going to cafes. So that was really cute. Yeah.
Kai, you want to go next?
Yeah. So I would say one of my favorite memories, like Peter said, was the Thankmas party. I really enjoyed like being around everybody, and like this is my favorite time of the year. So it was just a nice way to start it off. And then another time was when my mom came to visit me for a weekend. I forgot to mention that I'm from Texas. So like being away from home is like, you know, it's sometimes hard. So I'm glad my mom got to be able to come out and visit me, even if it was just for a weekend. And that was like really what I needed to like keep going, I would say. Yeah.
Sorry, I gotta clarify. When we say Thanksmas, we wanted to. It's because we didn't have time to do like a Thanksgiving party and a Christmas party, so we squished it together and made it a Thanksmas party, which just happened last Friday. Yeah, just for context, if anyone's confused what the heck a Thanksmas is. Yeah, maybe Mitri or Michael, you guys want to go next?
Yeah, so I think my favorite memory was also either the Thanksmas party or the Halloween party. I think that was pretty fun too. And I think I'm also really enjoying. So I'm doing the social media for the batch, and I think that's pretty fun too. And apart from that, my ideation studio, we love to hang out of studio and just work as well. So we've been going and exploring a few places, and yeah, that's another favorite memory of mine. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll definitely say that. I think some of my favorite memories have been like a hot pot night, a couple different just times, just, you know, hanging out with cohort mates outside of actually like the program a couple times. I'm somebody who's very big on like meditation and very big. I usually have like a place where I like ground myself. So my apartment here, every morning and every night, I pretty much go on the roof and just kind of stare out over the city. And so I have a lot of like times of like like distress and stress and high moments and low moments, but I think that they're very important for me to have. I think maybe my favorite memory, I actually, through the dub community that we have here on campus, I was actually able to volunteer down in South Seattle and really help connect with some of the elders in South Seattle and try to preserve some of that culture and history, which is very, very important to me personally. And not only did I like, you know, aside from like the connections that I made at that event, you know, it was a moment where I was able to really just kind of look out and be like, you know, I haven't even completed this program and I'm here doing one of the things that I want to do, that I've set out to do. And it really reinforced that, like, I don't have to wait. I don't, you know, I can have impact now. So I definitely think that was a very big moment for me personally.
I also want to,
oh no,
yeah.
go ahead.
I also want to add, because it's been a while, I think probably I missed that, but Immersion Studio was so fun as well. The entire week, we were out every day walking like lots of miles and just exploring different museums and having good food and just working on really fun projects. There was this one project where we had to make a presentation, but we couldn't use screens. So our team used Lego pieces. And I think just how out of the box that was and how fun that was. It was a pretty nice opening to the entire quarter. Yeah.
Just saying, as someone on the party committee, I'm very happy the Halloween party and Texas party left an impression on everyone. That's great. I want to say, yeah, the cohort has definitely been a highlight this past quarter. Having been sort of out of college for a bit, coming back to like a cohort system, and I live in the same apartment complex as a couple of other people in the cohort, and almost, so Michael is actually in that building too. But having this almost sort of like dormitory experience again, you know, so we were just hanging out at my space last night playing video games, having that connection, having people, you know, in the same stage of life as you, being able to do these like hangouts after classes has been like some of my favorite memories this quarter as well. It really fuels, it really just kind of recharges you because the deadlines are going to hit like really, really hard. All right, cool. Moving on sort of from thinking about this past quarter, what's next for everyone? Like looking beyond this program, what are you thinking of doing next?
Before we do another round, there's a couple questions in the chat. Can we answer them real quick?
Sure. What have you done?
So to Hansika, I believe, she had asked real quick about me and Kaya's research team, our approach to gaming and accessibility. And just to put it real quick, I thought a real quick thing that kind of came to me when I was thinking about the question was, when we first reached into this zone, we have a member on our team named Stevie. And I love Stevie's perspective so much because I tell her all the time, she holds me accountable because I'm very excitable and I'm very 100 miles an hour. And Stevie is all in, but you have to make it make sense. And so when we started looking into gaming and accessibility, the research that we looked into said that there's a whole lot of research saying that the gaming accessibility is not accessible enough. Lots of research that says that. And there's also a lot of research that says there's not enough research on gaming and accessibility. So the question kind of became, are we answering, is this a research space that we should go into? Is there research for us to do here? And what I thought was cool for our team was we kind of pivoted the thing in terms of, we weren't researching to try to prove that there should be more accessibility in games. We pivoted the research to say, if we were working for a game company, if we were a part of a game company, we're a part of their research team, we are basically saying that by providing better accessibility tools to all of their players, they're making the experience better to all of their players. Kind of like the philosophy that accessible design is designed for all. And once we hit that path, it kind of became like a guiding light, and it made the rest of the course a lot easier. So sometimes, like I said, it's not about whether the initial question is right, but when you look into trying to follow up on that, you find your opportunities there. So definitely let me know. I can answer any more questions on that in the chat. And then Trisha had a really great question to the chat. But they're basically saying that they were trying to learn to build on their research psychology and expand on their technical skills. And so they were wondering if the program was right for them. And I definitely think that'd be a good question for everybody here. What I'll just say for me personally is, before coming to this program, I had spent about 6 months self-taught, then did like a boot camp and fellowship working with some industry experts, and then started working with a company. And so when I came here, I really wanted to help get some of those foundational hard skills as well as some of that understanding and knowledge. And we're all here in our first quarter. And what I'll say is the first quarter has been really great to get us down to the mindset of design and understanding the mindset of research. I think it's definitely up to you as a person to kind of figure out maybe what direction you're trying to lean in and trying to supplement some of those hard skills with electives potentially, or looking outside of traditional electives. So there's DRGs on campus, there's volunteer organizations and groups. I definitely think everybody here probably has their own insights into it. But I definitely think that in terms of building on your previous experiences of your research psychology and technical skills, this is definitely a program where you have the opportunity, but you kind of have to figure, you kind of have to figure out what's right for you.
Great. Thanks, Michael, for highlighting those. Sorry, Matt, go ahead. I just saw you raise your hand.
I was just going to build off of what Michael said in answer to Trisha's questions. I think in general, Trisha, you've asked the right question for anybody who's applying. It's a question of, how will this program complement what I bring in? And all of you, as you've seen from this cool panel, everybody's coming from very different backgrounds. So there's not one thing that the program's going to do for everybody. And part of your puzzle as you're exploring programs to apply to is, how will this program complement the skills that I bring and add to what I have already in my arsenal? It'll be different for everybody. So yes, the answer for you is that it could definitely build on the skills that you've listed that you bring, but that should be a puzzle I think that everybody applying is asking themselves, like, what am I going to get out of this program? What does it have to offer me with what I bring in here? And I think the answer is it has a lot to offer from a lot of different directions, but that should be something that you're learning as you're going into the application here. Thanks a lot for asking that.
Great. I think we've got a couple more people asking questions in the Q&A about like whether they're a good fit or a good candidate from the program. We'll have a more open discussion on like tips for preparing your app. So maybe we'll take those questions a little bit later. Just to close out sort of this panel stuff, just going back to my question about like, how are you thinking about your future after this program? And then after we answer that, we'll move into talking about like tips and like navigating the application. So yeah, where are you guys headed after the program? Maybe Maitri can start.
Sure. So ideally, I would want to work in the user experience design field because that's what I've done in the past, but I feel like I have a lot more in-depth knowledge because of this program. And I would like to work in the big tech industries just because I want to work at companies that have a much larger impact, and I want to design for a very diverse audience. So yeah, let's see what the future holds.
So you want to chuck it to someone else?
Yeah, Kaya, let's go.
Alrighty. I feel like this is an ongoing question that I have with myself as well. But I know I also do want to work in the tech industry, but as I've been in this program, I've been learning more and more about the different job opportunities that I will have afterwards. So I just learned about like technical consulting. I thought consulting was mainly just for business people, but I didn't know that like people like us could also go into consulting. So I thought that was very interesting that I would want to look more into. And then I also want to go somewhere where I can utilize both my mechanical engineering degree and this degree as well. So don't know what that is yet, but I'm sure that I will find it by the end of the program. Yeah. And I will pass it to Charlotte.
Yeah. So after this program, before I joined this program, again, like I think my mindset is pretty like major, like, oh, I have this background and then I'm gonna stay on this path after I graduate. But now, ever since my ideation project, I've been looking for to explore other opportunities rather than just like UX product design. I feel like I'm more interested in like doing like exhibition design after ideation class and other just like art related jobs. I feel like that's given me talking about that. I feel like I have more passionate than my product design job. Yeah, but yeah, I'm still looking. I don't know, not sure yet. So next quarter we'll have like a physical prototyping class, which is I'm also really interested in. So yeah, I'm not quite sure yet. But I would definitely say it's like an opportunity for me to explore myself, because before I'm like, oh, I'm gonna only do like UX product design. That's why I'm coming to this program. But one thing I didn't think of is like this program definitely opened up my horizon and give me provide me like a lot of like different opportunities for me to explore. Yeah, I'm gonna pass to Peter.
Yeah, right. I think plus oneing a lot of what everyone says. A lot of my focus during the second half program, as well as after the program, is well, finding a job in the design position from a realist perspective. And to be completely frank, I think I'm still in the process of sort of discovering myself and seeing where my interest lies. I don't know yet. And to figure this out, a lot of the process will be sort of being okay with stepping out of your comfort zone during your projects and testing out different things, as well as talking to people in the cohort and the instructors, as well as they're, in my opinion, very personable and willing to talk to you one-to-one for any like career conversation. And well, speaking of that, there will be a lot of career-themed workshops hosted by Matt and other faculty members, and some of them are more general information, and some are more dedicated to, for example, portfolio or interview prep. And actually, there is a 1 credit elective in, I believe, spring quarter for a portfolio workshop. So I'll definitely be attending all of these, or as much as I can.
All right, cool. I think I'll just jump in here. I think I might be the only one on the panel who really wants to continue just doing research. So that's kind of, I came in with the background in research, wanting to learn more about the design space so that I can work better within this space with designers as well as with developers. And then almost through the project realized that my heart belongs in research. So I will be probably continuing on in the research space after the program. Yeah. Michael, you want to talk a little bit about your future, and then we'll transition into talking about the applications, and I'll head it back to Matt.
Yeah, for me, a little bit like Peter, I'm still trying to figure out exactly where in this space I'm trying to go, where my true interests lie. I know that I'm definitely really exploring whether game design is like really the field where I want to go into, whether being an interaction designer and for game design, or product design, product management. So really just kind of exploring what the different roles are and how I really would fit in them, as well as not trying to like, you know, pigeonhole myself into one industry if another one might end up being a better fit. So trying to explore that, but I do know that I want to continue working like with communities and trying to like tell narratives and maintain culture. I really do enjoy that kind of work, and I'm just going to continue to keep volunteering and working with nonprofit organizations.
Great. Thanks, everyone. We hope that was helpful, hearing sort of from our very real, very raw experiences just past quarter. Yeah, I think we can move into talking about navigating the application specifically. There are a couple of questions in Q&A, and I'll give the time back to our faculty to kind of address some of that. But we'll be hanging around still in the chat. And yeah, if there's any questions that we can help answer, Matt, do let us know as well.
Sam, thank you so much. And everyone, Michael, Kaya, Madri, Peter, Charlotte, thank you for all of this, all of the insights that you brought in. That's been really helpful, I think. And if you're able to stick around with Anna and Scott and I for Q&A now, it'd be great to have you there, because I think your perspective is a really valuable one as we go through these. To get us started, thanks to Sam being on the ball, I wanted to respond to some questions put into the Q&A tab as well, and we can then go from that into more questions. Somebody asked about application fee waivers. We don't do application fee waivers, domestic or international, so that's easy answer for that one. Someone also asked about how many applicants do we get each year for the program. It varies from year to year. We always cross our fingers and wait to see, but we're expecting it'll be similar to previous years, where we've had a bit over 900 applicants, which from 900 applicants to the 40-ish in the cohort, it's a pretty competitive process. So definitely recommend paying good attention to all of the materials that you're working on for your application. And then there was a question about grade point average. There's somebody asked about required grade point levels. We've got some information on the website that break down all the varieties of ways you can calculate your GPA. We are looking for you getting above a 3.0 GPA using either your overall GPA or your grade point average for the last 2 years of study, or your GPA in your major. You can use one of those three and figure out which one is the most advantageous for reaching that 3-point level. But read the website information for a little more detail on that, and I think you'll be ready to go. And you can email me if you have more questions about that as well. I think that covers what's been in the Q&A. We can look in chat, and also if you have questions and want to speak to us, you can just put up your little raised hand, and we can call you from the raised hand icon and talk to you as a human and not just in chat. There's a question I see from Kanika about career options that you might head to after completion of this program. I'm happy to talk a little bit there, and then I think Scott and Anna will have other pieces to add in there. The main job titles that people go into: UX designer, product designer, user researcher, IX designer is another one. Those are kind of the main areas that we see most people go into, but there are plenty of others. I think strategist is becoming a more popular term, and all different permutations in that. Job titles are a little vague in this field in general. Scott or Anna, you want to add anything into those?
Go ahead, Scott.
Sure. I think, I mean, there's a workshop that Matt does next quarter. So in the winter, that's kind of like making sense of all the job titles. So job titles are kind of a funny thing in the industry, where like one job title at one place means something totally different in another place. And so part of understanding kind of what y'all want to be doing is part of that equation. And then sometimes there's kind of a mix. Like if somebody comes from a very technical background, that's maybe like engineering, there might be something more like on the technologist side, or if they're taking some of the skills that they learn about research and design and still staying within engineering. Similarly, there are going to be people, I think Peter kind of talked about coming from like architecture. Like there are people that kind of leverage some of that existing architecture background, and then we're trying to talk to them about like, well, how much do you still want to be doing? How much are you kind of putting that in the past, or what do you want to carry on into the future? And I think Charlotte, you mentioned like these opportunities that you might not have thought of were on like exhibition design. And so I think part of it is like there's a whole world of different job titles. I think Matt kind of covered kind of the big ones as overarching ones. But part of that process of grad school in general is trying to unpack what these different job titles are and what it means specifically for you as an individual. But yeah, I come from design agency world. So like I was part of the design and insights and strategy team. And I also came from like an innovation lab where I was working a lot with like technologists. So I was doing a lot more like hardware and robotics type projects. And so I don't know if I fit under any specific category in some of my role titles. And so that's what we like to try to unpack with everybody. So that's my 2 cents really quick.
And I'll just amplify that by saying it's important to understand what jobs you want to focus on as you exit the program. But more importantly, I think it's really, really essential that you use time during the program to connect your purpose to the types of impact that you want to see in the world. Job titles change with the weather. They're constantly shifting. You will be in and out of jobs throughout your careers. What is important is really taking time to connect your internal compass to the opportunities that a career in HCID will afford you. The world is changing so quickly. There are job titles that have not yet been invented that you will probably inhabit or potentially help shape. The ability for you to engage those future forward careers really is anchored on your ability to connect your internal purpose with a sort of North Star impact that you're thinking of making over the course of your career. So making sure that we're taking not only a near and midterm, but also looking at a long-term approach for the development of your career.
Awesome.
And I see some hands raised. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, I wanted to get to some of the hands raised ones. So Rachel, I think you were the first person with a hand up. What's up? Welcome in.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you all. My name is Rachel. I'm calling in from Atlanta this morning. This has all been some really great stuff. I really appreciate all you guys' insight. My question is primarily for those of you with work experience out in the field already who had come into the program. My question is, what are you learning in this program that you didn't get to learn out in the field? What is it about this program that makes it beneficial to you to keep on learning and keep being a student?
Good question.
I can
Go, Sean.
Yeah, so I feel like to me it's like the reading part I already mentioned in the channel. It's like I'm not a big reader, so I don't read as much. So having some of the readings that's like in the SCI industry, I definitely feels like that's really valuable for me, open my eyes. And also at the same time, it's like I feel like the way I'm thinking when I'm working is kind of like stay in the same way, because you guys work in the same company, same team, like you might have like-minded mindset, but in this program, like you really kind of think like the post-human or like something that you wouldn't normally touch on while you're working, because in the working is really more like realistic. So I wouldn't say this is not realistic, but like more like an ideal way, or also like some like really interesting like niche topic that you wouldn't really know before coming to this program. I feel like that's the 2 things that are on top of my head. I feel like that's really interesting. I also feel like those readings also shaped the way I'm thinking, because I feel like in the working place, I feel like I wasn't learning like too much of the new stuff except for like the technical stuff. For example, like I was working as a product designer, so what I learned at work is like, oh, how to like maybe do this Figma tricks and doing this and that. But in this program, doesn't really matter that much. So I feel like the way you're thinking is definitely like a huge plus, and like the knowledge that I've learned so far. Yeah.
Definitely want to plus flow into what Charlotte just said. I know me and Kaya have had the pleasure to be in Professor Dr. Axel Rosler's class. Everybody here is going to have him for our capstone at the end of the quarter. But I definitely think one of the biggest things that I have actually learned a lot of the quarter, like the other classes, has been challenges and some new projects, but it's not things that are new to me. But what I really liked about Dr. Axelrod is he really challenged my perspective. I think we've all probably read The Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman. And so those were the first assigned readings for the class, but it was kind of how he talked about it and the questions that he posed. And the fact that he's you can nice guy. He's very anti-Figma. He's very anti-big templatized trends, because he says at the end of the day, back in the day, someone had to create these things. Nowadays, he says we're so focused on screens, and we're so focused on how to do something that's already been shown to us better, that we've kind of forgotten how to innovate. And it was really interesting to me because, all the work that I've done has been work, web design work as an experienced designer. And so it's even if I'm building a site, it's getting back to well, what am I actually trying to do? What emotion am I trying to evoke? What is the reasoning behind? Instead of oh, well, I should just go get a button from this temp. It helps I feel like it helps me you grow as a designer in terms of perspective, if that helps.
Yeah, Rachel, I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you guys so much. That was really helpful.
Awesome. Thanks for the question, Rachel. Jaeyun, you're up next.
Hi, thank you everyone for sharing your experiences and your insights. I'm also calling in from Los Angeles, so it's very sunny on this side. I apologize. I wanted to ask a question regarding kind of the course in general and a question specifically for application. But how do you see the courses in the program adapting as the industry changes? For example, with the introduction of AI that's been really booming in this industry. And my second question was, if we studied abroad in college, do we need to get a separate transcript for that specific college we studied with?
I'll answer the second one really briefly because it's easy, and then I'll leave Scott and Anna to start up on the more interesting question, that longer one. So study abroad, if those courses are already listed on your general undergrad transcript, they're often listed there with the grades. You don't need to get the transcript from the study abroad international school that you studied in. As long as the courses are detailed in your main transcript, that's easy, done, all set. The broader question, Scott and Anna, how do you think the curriculum might be changing or evolving as we reach new influences on our field, especially AI, but other things as well?
Oh, thank you so much for that. I think it's a really, really important question. The curriculum in our work always has to be modulating, and not just in reaction to trends, but also staying on top of and ahead of them. My career has been centered in early stage project envisioning at major tech companies, and I am very aware of how ideas are gestated and pushed forward. I think for our program, some of the most important things, and again, I've mentioned this, is anchoring to purpose, centering not only our understanding of who we are as humans and the impact of technology on how we live and perceive the world, but also how technology impacts the environment, and through that also looking at the role that technology plays and technology leaders play in terms of equity. So equity, environment, those are issues that we really take quite seriously. So I think moving forward, it's not only about how do we, what is our point of view regarding ChatGPT? It's really how do we graduate people who can lead, who are great thought leaders, who have a perspective and a point of view that is well grounded, not only in the readings that they're presented with and the work that they do within the field, but also through the conversations that they have with other thought leaders in a very diverse way. So again, I see the program evolving in really important ways over the next 10 years. And I would say that our alumni and our industry partners are going to be a very big part of that. as well as the faculty across the University of Washington, but more broadly, faculty around the world. We are in the process of benchmarking our program. We are looking at over 100 HCI programs throughout the world and really seeing that all HCI programs are faced with some of the challenges and opportunities that we're faced with, which really means how do we bring a truly 21st century vision to the future of HCI through the education that we offer throughout the program.
I just want to add, so specifically about AI and generative AI, we did have a talk about how to leverage, let's say, ChatGPT or other AI models to gather research insights or just use that in our daily design work. So we do have talks like that. We do have discussions like that as well. And that was really helpful too.
I think from a faculty point of view on some of this stuff, technology trends they just keep coming, right? Like, and I think Anna kind of mentioned you got to stay on top of it, but you also have to think about more broadly, like, what is it that we're trying to actually do with some of these technologies and why? And so I think my approach to thinking about technology isn't to say like everybody has to learn the latest things in technology, because that's not going to be for everybody. And so trying to figure out like, when does technology actually fit into the context of the work that you're actually doing? Is it the right technology to be actually looking into, and then giving you an opportunity to kind of experiment and look into that area, connecting you with resources that are kind of deep into that. Like, I'm part of the CSE faculty right now, and there's a lot of people working on LLMs, right? The large language models right now, thinking about some of these things. And then on top of that, I think there's these other existential questions that you start asking around technology. So whether it's AI or VR, whatever, AR, whatever things that are happening, starting to ask these kind of ethical questions about like, what's the actual impact if we actually have this technology and it gets implemented into our work. And right now, AI is a really good question mark, right? Like, it's embedding into our classrooms, it's in some of our projects already, it's in how people are actually doing some of the coursework. And we can't say that it's not going to exist, but we have to start to understand, like, how is it kind of like changing our view on technology? What is the world in which we want to have technology play a certain role? And that's an individual perspective that everybody will kind of try to kind of grow and learn. And then figuring out ways, if you are interested in that, to kind of weave those kind of things into some of the coursework that you're doing. I think last year we had 2 capstone teams that were really kind of interrogating the role of AI and how that impacts different communities. Two that come to mind. One is about was around independent filmmakers and how AI might kind of influence that. And the other one was about long form novelists, and how does like things like ChatGPT both support it, but also kind of maybe take away from what was happening in that field. So I think those are these really interesting ways in which you start to interrogate what is technology like AI, and then what's your response to that, whether it's embedded in a technology and how that could be embedded into a technology. So I think those are things that allow us to kind of be flexible around it, but also something that we're always interested in seeing where that's going, for sure too. So good question.
Awesome. Thank y'all. We got a couple of Q&A questions. I wanted to get to Ruth first, and then we'll go to the typed questions as well. Ruth, thank you for your patience and waiting. What's up?
Hi, I'm Ruth. Nice to meet you. I'm also calling in from LA, so same as Jayon. I also just wanted to take like a quick moment to just I know everyone's echoed this, but just say a really formal thank you to all of you guys for being so genuine and honest and open in like all of your sessions throughout this whole process. I've been to all 3 by now, and I've learned different things from every single one. So I really, really appreciate it. It's part of the reason why I'm so drawn to this program over some other ones, and this is really like my dream opportunity. So thank you. Just to give a little bit more context about me and like my situation, I just graduated from UCLA this past June. I double majored in design and communications, and I've been really interested in UX, and I've been working in UX through internships and like part-time student jobs for about like 2 or 3 years, so most of my undergrad. But I have, like, to be completely honest with you, been through like all the stages of grief in the last couple of months, trying to apply for my first full-time job in UX, which I'm sure a lot of people can probably relate to. I'm still actively like applying and interviewing right now, but it just gave me a really rude awakening, I think, to how hard it is to break into the industry at this specific moment, just because of the state of the economy and like the tech industry in general. So my question is, like, how does this program program really help students break into the industry, given that it's so competitive? Because I know that this program does a really great job of like fostering learning and building the skills that you need to go out into the industry. But what I'm really like focused on is like, once I learn this wealth of knowledge and have all these tools, I am super excited to like go out there and like launch into the world and actually put these things in action. So I was just wondering if there's like maybe any networking events or any other like professional or like connection programs that you guys have, just to like help people then bridge the gap between like MHCID and then like the rest of the world.
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Ruth. We'll throw out a few different ideas. I'm sure the current students are listening carefully for the answers to these questions as they start thinking about how soon the year will end for them and how they'll be jumping back out there. We do a lot of things. It's an interesting time to be in this field. I think there's a lot of transition going on. But what makes it strong coming out of a program like this, I think, really is the depth that you can bring to your future careers once you've gone through this program. We think the things that you're learning and you're practicing in your projects here really give you a strong foundation that you're not just, and I say just advisedly, but you're not just a tool expert. When you get done with this, you're not going to be the super wrangler of all things Figma when you're done with this program. Instead, it's about the depth that you bring to how you approach design and what you're thinking when you're asked questions from wherever you're working. That ability to sort of say why and to think about what's behind the decisions that you make is an added strength that everybody comes out of this program with. And I think it really helps to make you an attractive job applicant when you're talking with future job prospects. Now, more pragmatically, we also do a lot of things to prepare you for your coming career. Our alumni network is a really big strength that you find yourself relying on more and more throughout this program. Because of the cohort nature, I think, you heard from our current students how much they're spending time with each other and getting to know each other. That produces alum that are very bonded to the program in a great way. And our alum just keep giving back. On the side today, I've been doing a lot of preparing of the alumni mentoring program that'll launch for this current cohort of students in January and February. And I'm hearing back from a bunch of alums saying, count me in, I'm in for this new round. The alumni mentoring program is one way that you have easily built connections to folks who are several years ahead of you in the field and who can understand what you're going through as you're going through this program and reformulating what you're going to present yourself as you come out the other side. We do a lot of workshops throughout the year on various aspects of the job search and defining your career. Those all come as well. And I think the classmates that you have in your cohort become increasingly valuable as you have folks that understand not just the field, not just the theory and the practice, but they also understand your perspective and can give you great advice as you come along. So instructors, sure, the instructors, great to be valuable, and staff along the way as well. Alumni, they're great. Your classmates, that's going to be a great advantage as you start to come up with ideas for how you're going to approach your career search on the way out the other side. Anna, Scott, I've been talking a lot. Any thoughts you want to add to this question? It's a really good one that Ruth raises.
Scott, you want to go ahead? Oh.
In my experience, there's always been these ups and downs in the economy. I feel like right now it's true. Like there are definitely challenges that are happening with some of the different industries and big tech in their hiring practices and how quickly they're willing to hire or how much they are not hiring. I always feel like there's different things as practitioners. You also have to kind of like start to think about like, what are the real opportunities that you're looking for? I think Anna talks a lot about this idea of passion. Like, I think some people say like, my passion is big tech or something. And I was like, well, no, really, what are you trying to measure? Like, what is the impact that you're trying to do? And then you might actually find that there's more opportunities out there than you might think. Obviously, there's going to be stuff that I think Matt kind of downplays, but I think Matt, Anna, myself, and the rest of the faculty and the staff here support is like trying to have a better understanding of what you are trying to do, and then trying to say like, well, what are your limitations? What are the things that you're hoping to do? And then what are the different opportunities to help support you as well? So on top of like the alumni, I think there's a lot of support that comes from the small group of people here that's really dedicated just to the students that are in this program and our alumni. And I'd say like, I don't know, the amount of people that still stop by and visit Matt from years and years and years, like they've graduated like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, they'll still come by and talk to Matt, and Matt still gives them still that dedicated support for them, still practicing interviews, doing all these things to kind of help them as they're going through that process. And then some years too, I feel like there's, we've done things where we've had opportunities to bring like almost like a, what are they called, career kind of days or something too, to kind of help support you as you like trying to network to get outside of your network. And then I know we have a new kind of communication outreach person, and they're really working hard to figure out ways to like we bring different community people into our space, and hopefully us out to at least the Seattle community as well, to kind of help with that networking and building that community. So just a lot of different things that we try to do. We acknowledge the fact that there's always going to be challenges, and then we try our best to be honest about it, and then as supportive as we can throughout that process.
Example of that to throw in, we just yesterday I was chatting with an alum who works at Uber about setting up some January, February class visits where students can go and meet a bunch of people at Uber who are working in design, and that kind of thing just flows from the alumni pretty regularly. So that's the sort of thing that's going in there. Anna, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's quite all right. This is just a great conversation. It's really important. And I just want to say, as Scott is mentioning, the tech industry goes through ups and downs. I myself graduated into the bottom of one of the worst recessions since the Great Depression, was underemployed for about 4 years, pretty dramatically, before I found my first role as a game designer in the early 90s. It was rough. It was a really, really rough experience. And it was formative as well, meaning I had to learn how to hustle. I had to learn how to connect my inner grit to what was possible out there. I had to really understand what my purpose was and how I could connect the skills that I had to an industry that was really emerging at the time. And just to put reference on it, this was at a time where 8 gigs of RAM, not even gigs, 8 megabytes of RAM might have cost $3,000. There were no layers in Photoshop. The industry was really nascent, and the roles were very hard to find and very ill-defined. I actually, and having since experienced, further ups and downs in the tech industry, I would say to you that to graduate in a tough tech environment is actually a massive advantage. And I'll tell you why. Some real talk from me to you today. It makes you tough. It makes you not take it for granted, big salaries and cushy digs. Let me tell you, ping pong balls and beer kegs, all of that is so aside the point. The best environments, the best working experiences I've ever had have been in pretty dilapidated warehouses, working on pretty crap, tables from Costco, just working with astonishingly talented and committed people on work that really mattered to us. And so there are also advantages in a down market in the sense that risk is cheaper. Does that make sense? Okay. And this means that y'all could go out and be more entrepreneurial, right? You can create passion projects. You can go, like Michael's been doing, and connect with nonprofits and be of service and really learn how to be of value in the community. So I would say probably the most important thing is really understanding not just your passion, but what is your purpose and how are you going to connect what's inside you to an ecosystem of leaders and teachers and mentors who are going to be with you throughout the arc of your career. And these are things that we're folding into the MHCID curriculum. We're amplifying our professional practice this year. We're going to be working with our students to create this purpose pathway, encouraging our students to go ahead and develop their own mentorship ecosystems. and also learn how to be mentors to others, because of course mentorship is really a co-mentorship. It's a dialogue amongst a community of people that really care. So I think it's a very exciting time to emerge. Certainly it's very noisy, very bumpy, but I also think all of you have enormous resilience inside of you, no matter whether or not you join us in this journey. And I'm excited personally to see where all of us end up in the next several years.
Thank you so much. That meant a lot.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Your question was awesome.
Hansika, you're up next.
Hi, thank you so much for taking the time to answer all these questions. I'm Hansika and I'm calling in from Hong Kong. So that's a little bit far away from all of you guys. So I had a couple of questions. So I realized that a lot of you guys are probably from different backgrounds and very diverse programs and backgrounds at that. So I just wanna know how you guys leveraged that during your application and brought the best parts of your backgrounds forward, and also how having like a very diverse cohort helps you like grow, like when it comes to having a very similar background, there's a lot of like similar thoughts and similar ways to approach a problem. But since you guys are all from like different backgrounds, how do you guys work towards like a project, or like how does any ideation process work for you guys? And just a second quick question would be that Professor Anna mentioned earlier about equity-based design, and that's something that I personally am very interested in. So I just wanted to learn a little bit more about how that's going on, like what research about equity-based design is going on, and just any more insights that you guys can give me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you much. So students, any insight into how you brought your different backgrounds in, like she asked?
Sure. Mitchie, you can start. You can start.
No, I just so yeah, definitely the way they made the teams for ideation also, they asked us to fill this form out where we had to highlight our strengths and things we possibly want to learn more. And then based on that, the teams are assigned. And I think that was really helpful because then we had like a good mix of people who have a stronger visual design background, or maybe someone with psychology background, or someone with better people management skills. And that's definitely what we learned from each other as well. And even though, for example, I have more user experience design background, in a class like user research, I was able to learn more from my peers, and just simply how to write a literature review, for example. That's something I had never done. So it really contributes a lot to compared to having people with similar experience levels and similar thinking as well. Yeah.
I want to echo what Mitchie said. I think the benefit of having this diverse cohort and in the application process, sort of telling us what kind of skills and experiences you're bringing to the program is really important. Because you spend so much time in project work, there's what you learn in class, and then there's going to be everything that you learn from your teammates as you're doing the project. So for example, personally for myself, I have experience in research as well as facilitation. So what I've been trying to do this quarter in my 2 project teams is to use the facilitation skills to guide our project team meetings and sort of help us to reach a decision point at the end of meetings. So that's something that I'm bringing in from my past experience. As for the user research class, this quarter, I've tried to facilitate the meetings in such a way that I'm trying to help everyone else to like learn and find the joy in the research process as much as I do. So those are things that I'm trying to be very like generous with my knowledge with in these 2 areas, just because I have worked in these spaces before. And I think I do it with the intention and with the hope that that generosity will be reciprocated once we move into things like prototyping studio and having to do more of the hands-on design work, because that's where I am personally very lacking. So I'm hoping to then learn that in the next quarter from classmates who have a coding background, have a physical prototyping background. So you will find ways to sort of apply all of these things from wherever you're coming from. And I think the culture and the cohort is very much one of like peer learning as well. And that's been very, very enjoyable. Yeah.
I want to break in just in the interest of time to make sure we get our last raised hands up before we run out of time. Sorry to cut off students in this one, but Harry, you've been waiting for a bit. What's on your mind?
Hi everyone, my name is Harry. I'm from New York City. My question is more about student life because I studied UX design in a fashion school, so everyone have no idea what I do. But I'm curious, at University of Washington, do students have opportunity to collaborate with student in computer major? Because I don't have coding background, I always want to work with other people to be launching something in college years. So I'm curious if the student has any experience from club or society that can meet people with same interests.
I can speak about that. So I would say UW has a very big like student life population, and they have a lot of different clubs on campus. So I'm a part of the National Society of Black Engineers because I still do have that interest in engineering. And then also I know that there's a lot of like UX clubs and like coding clubs on campus who actually will go out and teach people how to code like once or twice a week. So you can join those organizations as well. And then also like the research groups, if you really want to dive really deep in it for a quarter, you can reach out to like the computer science department and ask if they have any research opportunities for you there. And then also a lot of it is like the learning from your peers. So me and Michael are in an elective together, and we are surrounded by undergrad students who are just geniuses when it comes to UX and like designing and graphic designing and things like that. So we learn a lot from them. So also just like the electives that you take can help you out a lot as well. So yeah, you don't have to just stick to like the core classes in the MHCID program. There's like a lot to learn on UW's campus as well. There's a lot of resources.
Thank you. That's amazing. Thank you.
Quickly, I want to quickly plus one more Kyle just said, because she was thankfully she had actually invited me to come to those NSB meetings, and they have definitely a great community out there, as well as there's lots of different ways to get involved. So one thing I will say is like the program is it's a one-year program, so it's very fast-paced, and it's one of those situations where it can be very easy for you to kind of be head down in your core classes and in your elective and just trying to get the work done. But I think if you kind of, push yourself that extra step and do try to get yourself involved with the campus, it does take a lot, but I think it pays off.
Thank you.
And I'll just chime in here. I really, really encourage this. It's really important to go beyond the program and engage this incredible community at the University of Washington and more broadly across Seattle and the region. MHCID is strong because we're part of the University of Washington, which has got to be one of the most outstanding R1 research institutes in the world. And then, Seattle right now is just fascinating in every measure and complicating. So it's great to have folks out and about engaging.
Thank y'all. Yeah. Brennan, I think you're up for next question.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Hi guys, my name is Brennan. I am from Pennsylvania, Scranton, Philadelphia. I'm born in Scranton. I live in Philadelphia. Sorry that I'm late, but super happy that this was still going on. I had a meeting for the last hour. But yeah, I've been looking at this program. I've been looking at school programs for a while now. I was laid off last year. I worked at Twitter and was laid off when that all went down. And was out of a job for 11 months. And in that time was you know, pretty reflective of like where I want to move forward or how I want to move forward with my career. If I want to, you know, pivot or go back to school or whatever it may be. My role is like a web manager / producer, so it touches a lot of different areas, and I've always been in kind of these like very cross-functional roles that are kind of just like in the generalist area, but it, you know, my background's in marketing, but I do a lot of web design, which led into like broader UX design, project management, a whole bunch of stuff. But I think where I really excel is in a lot of the both the design side and like the analytical, like logical processes of like the UX field. And this program seems to really focus on like developing that more and like cross collaboration with you know, the cohort. A lot of the other programs that have a similar name are all online, and I really don't want that kind of experience. So this program is just crazy. Like I get chills just thinking about this program at night. But the one thing I will say is that I think I have pretty good work experience the past 5 years, but my undergrad GPA was not great. It was like a 2.86 or something, which I think you could use like a major GPA, which my major GPA is over the 3, so that's fine. But I was curious just because I know that you could get in with, or like you qualify to apply and get approved with that type of GPA, but I was curious what the actual chances of approval are with a background like that.
Yeah, Brendan, thanks for that breakdown. Yeah, so I think of those GPA bars as bars to get over. So I'm glad you're able to, like, you have a method that will get over the 3-point level. We'll look at part of what we'll look at in admissions is, you know, how you did as a student. So yeah, that'll be part of your application. It'll be the work that you worked on as an undergrad. But when we look at our admitted cohorts each year, we have students whose GPA spans the full range from 3-point up to 4-point, and there's quite a variety in there. Those who get admitted who have lower GPAs in that scale range are doing it because they're showing us other things that their strengths come through on. We won't ignore all of your undergrad studies or how you did in school, but we take that as part of the story about what makes you special. And so, yes, it doesn't put you at the bottom of the pile because you have a lower GPA than somebody else who might come through with perfect scores. We're looking at all different elements that come together to form sort of your argument for why you're right for this program. And some people it'll be classwork, some people it won't be classwork. Kind of lean into your strengths that make you sort of special for this program and the way that we put together these cohorts. That's what where your advantage can be there, I think.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add in just a little note to everybody. You know, undergraduate can be really hard, you know, and we all face different challenges in our lives. Not all of those challenges show up in our GPA, right? They might pull our GPA down. They might be things that we're not comfortable talking about with anybody. And so, you know, as we evaluate, it's great that you're able to transcend that bar, you know, focus on, you know, where you are right now, what you've done, what your purpose is, you know, try and get really good letters of recommendation, write an application that matters to you. That's probably the most important thing. Write a statement that helps really align your own vision and your own purpose. When students write from their heart, it really shows. You know, there's a saying in filmmaking, if it's not on the stage, if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage. Put your heart into that page and let's see what happens.
Thank you. That's great advice. I appreciate it.
I know we're kind of at time, but I wanted to give Joshua a chance. He's had his hand raised for a long while. So Joshua, what's on your mind?
Hi. So I'm Josh A, and and I wanted
Joshua,
to like
sorry.
no worries. So I'm calling in from Jamaica, and I had 3 questions that I wanted to ask, and so I listed them here so I didn't forget. So one of the question is, Well, just to give like a brief background, since everyone gave that, I have a background in computer engineering, which I obtained from Virginia Tech. And with that being said, I wanted to know what makes an applicant stand out among the 900 plus applicants that you have? Do you look more into work experience? And then that goes into my second question. Is the work experience vital to your application? And how does the committee feel about applicants with less than 1 year in that field? And I believe my third question is, so I'm very interested in research with various professors on campus. So I've been able to, look through the website to find professors I'd be willing to, work with while there. And I wanted to know more about the HCI labs. So for example, do you have labs that work within AR, VR or accessibility?
That's a good collection of questions. I'll try to answer some of these and then we can go from there. In general, work experience is in general very valuable for applying to this program and being able to make the most of this program. It's not a requirement though. We have every year a good portion of our cohort is coming largely from academia, having come from undergraduate. It's a portion of like maybe about a quarter of the cohort, somewhere around there, 20%. So there's a route into the program without work experience. In general, though, we found that having some work experience gives you a chance to really distill a little better what you're bringing and what you want to get out of a degree like the MHCID program. So we found it very helpful. It gives you some experience in real world projects. It builds up some skills that can be useful in the team projects you do here. Not required, but generally pretty helpful. Boy, trying to think of some of your other questions.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I can just repeat them for you. So I was wondering, how do you stand out among 900 applicants? I mean, everyone wants to, work within the HCI, field, and everyone wants to do design and really apply their own social impact. So how do you kind of find, oh, we want this applicant to be a part of the cohort?
That's the puzzle of the application, isn't it? So how do you stand out? We think there's a whole bunch of different great routes into this program. What's important is finding your own special route in, what makes you particularly right for this type of a program. I mean, we're a unique kind of a program in the way that we're set up. We're very different than the structure of some other programs. Why is that a good fit for you? That's a story you need to tell us about in your application, and help us understand why whatever background you've brought together is one that prepares you to be right for going into this program. So we're looking for people who understand what we have to offer and then show us where they're coming from. That's their own special sauce that makes them kind of an interesting addition to our cohort. It is a puzzle to work out, and I think there's no right single answer. But if you poke around a little bit and like listening to the student panel today, I think you get an idea of like a lot of different routes that can be great routes into MHCI+D here. So finding the right route in. You were asking something about research groups and working with them.
Yes.
Yeah, you can work with research groups during the program largely by taking research groups as sort of an elective course, joining a research group that way. We're primarily, though, in the program, you're not coming in to sort of join a research lab. You'll be working mostly on the curriculum that brings everybody together in these studio classes and these theory seminars. That's going to take the bulk of your time. You can do some things on the side with different research groups and work with them, but that's not going to be the heart of your study in the year here. And that's one of the differentiating pieces of our program is that it's professionally based around our curriculum. And it's not like a PhD program where you're going in to someone's research agenda and what they're doing in their instructor role.
Oh, okay. Thank you for answering my question. Because I was kind of envisioning more so, working with the curriculum and then also maybe doing possible research in maybe a special topic like AR, VR, or accessibility. So that kind of gives me an idea. So thank you for that.
Yeah, those would possibly be on the projects you're working on within the studio classes. You might find that you've got a solution in AR, VR, or accessibility that fits with some of the studio topics, or your capstone project is another great place to dive into some of those areas. And then there are directed research groups that you can join around some of those topics as a possible elective, but that would be sort of a little further afield in your electives and not necessarily the focus of your year.
I was going to add a couple little things to that, Matt.
Go for it.
When you're asking about like, I think Matt kind of mentioned it's like why this program, because you specifically asked about like for people that have kind of less experience. One thing that we really kind of want to understand is like why grad school right now, right? Like because there might be a really, really good reason why you're coming straight from a undergraduate program and grad school seems right and we're a good fit, and it seems right now. And so then we would be like, yeah, that makes sense. And likewise, somebody that's been out in the industry for like 10 years might have a good reason, like right now is a good time for me to be pursuing a graduate degree. So kind of understanding that. The other things that I like to just tell people when you're going through this process, when there's so many people that are applying and we're reviewing hundreds of applications, there's some level of like having some authenticity to you and why you want to be in this program. And so one of the things where it's like, there's so many like catchy keywords that you'll get for like HCI design on like accessibility, inclusivity, equity, and all of these things, right? But it's like, if you care about that, then why do you care about it? You know what I mean? Don't just tell us that you care about certain things. Like we want to learn more about you and your point of view, your perspectives, and what you're thinking about, and why you might be interested in something. And so like sometimes us being open and honest about some of your thoughts and concerns about things or your excitement about certain things, but it should be coming from like your individual perspective and some of your background and how, like what brought you to this point in your life right now that grad school seems right and this opportunity is a good opportunity for you. And I think that's really the way that you can kind of make yourself different from everybody else. And because everybody has their unique experiences prior to this. I had a student that's interested in the program come into the studio and they were like talking to some of the students and they were like, there's somebody from fashion design, somebody from engineering, somebody from UX, and then somebody from like, I forget, it was like criminology or something like that. And it's kind of like they had their own kind of specific lens of like what kind of like got them to that point in their life that kind of led them to the door of like a program like our program. So starting to figure out like what is your story and making it unique to you so we get to know who you are and why. So I like to just kind of plug that when you guys are thinking about your final submissions.
And I would just add one last thing, which is, we are a community. So communities are really based in reciprocity and sharing and caring about ourselves and caring about others and how that kind of rolls through. Each of you are coming from a very different background, different stories, different environments. It's always so wonderful to hear about who you are, what you want to get out of the program, but also what you bring to the program authentically to enrich the community that we create together, not only through the actual program's year-long journey, but also eventually as future alumni of the program. So that might be something to think about, what you give and what you get and how you think about that.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. We've gone a bit over time and I want to make sure that we wrap up and give students chance to get back to their projects as the quarter is ending. I really wanted to thank Samantha for putting together the student panel. Great set of people to bring in. Kaya, Michael, Mitri, Peter, Charlotte, thank you all so much for joining us here. Anna and Scott, great to see you again. And all of the applicants who joined us today, thank you again for coming in, for great questions. It's great to dive in a little bit to all these different elements. Feel free to reach out to Samantha and I. We've shared our emails and contact info in chat. We're happy to answer questions and good luck in the application season. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. That was good.